Well,
my name is Joram van Klaveren. I'm from the Netherlands, and I used to be a member of the PVV. It's probably a party that you do not know, and if you do know, that's something special to know. It's the party of Geert Wilders. Maybe you've ever heard of him, the guy with the blonde hair. It's not his real hair color. I know. But he founded the party in 2006, and it's called the PVV, the Freedom Party of the Netherlands. And the main goal of that party was to make sure that Islam was not able to grow in the Netherlands, and later on, it was the purpose was to ban Islam from the Netherlands in total. Well, I'll come back to that later. Maybe it's interesting that I introduce myself a little bit. My name is Joram van Klaveren, as I said, and I grew up in a very Orthodox Protestant environment. My mother and father were members of the Reformed Church. I have an older brother, a sister, another younger brother. We went to church. We read the Bible. We did all the things that normal Christian people do. But we were we were members of a very strict denomination of the Christian Church. So other religions, were gone astray, in the opinion of the theologians of my church. So that's something that it was not explicitly said, but it's something that you learn during the days that you get raised till let's say 16, 17. So I had a certain religious bias towards Islam, not specific Islam, but other religions in general. But Islam was certainly not an option to look at in a positive way whatsoever. I studied religion, comparative religion, when I got older. I went to university. But you take, of course, the things you learn in your upbringing with you. So that's something I did too. I became politically active after 9/11, because September 11, 2001 was the first day of my study of comparative religion. So it was a strange kickoff. After that, we had a murder in the Netherlands. Maybe you've heard of it. Theo van Gogh. He was murdered by a jihadist. A lady who is active in the United States as well, who's from the Netherlands, Ayaan Hirsi Ali. She was in Parliament when I was an assistant of a politician back then. So the whole sphere in a political sense and in a social sense was very anti-Islam. Of course, you had the terrorist attacks in London, Madrid, etc., etc. So there was a certain time that the view that people had when it came to Islam became negative and more negative, more negative. And I think that another thing that's very important that played a role in the way I developed myself is the fact that in Europe there is a historical bias towards Islam because of the historical clashes. And we have crusades from the Christian church towards the Islamic world. There are attacks from Ottoman Empire, for example, on the Christian part of the world. So there have been clashes for hundreds of years, one side, the other side, and the other way around. And the combination of those things, the start of my comparative religion study at September 11, 2001, the fact that Theo van Gogh was murdered, my upbringing, and I think the historical bias of Europe when it comes to Islam, the combination of those things made me want to become politically active. And I was searching for a party who was most anti-Islam. Well, I found that party. There was Geert Wilders from the PVV. And I did everything I could. When I became a member of parliament, it was in 2009, 2010. So that's way back. And yeah, the last, I think, 7, 8 years, of the 7, 8 years after that, I did everything that I could to stop Islam from growing. I tried to get legislation to ban Islamic schools in the Netherlands, to ban all mosques, to prohibit reading the Quran. So, and in one time we made legislation, or we tried to make legislation to ban Islam in general from the Netherlands, of course, and alhamdulillah, it didn't work. But that was something that we tried. And I left Islam. Sorry, I left the political party, the PVV, in 2014, 2015, and that was because it was an anti-Islam party. But in 2014, 2015, Geert Wilders was active at a rally. I always had, as a Christian guy, my doubts on certain dogmas of the Christian Church, for example, the Trinity, the crucifixion of Christ. And I thought those were points when it comes to the Christian dogmas that are difficult to understand. So, but I was writing the book, but those, I tell you this because it comes back later in my story. And those were, for example, Islam promotes terror. That's something that I thought. Islam is anti-women. Islam is anti-Jewish. Islam is anti-democracy. Well, all the prejudices and all the stereotypes when it comes to Islam, I had. And what I did was starting to read and reread the articles and the books that I already read. But at some point, I came across information that was at odds with the things that I was used to read and what I learned in the past. So I started writing letters to several ministers, to imams, and to scholars. But in the end, the big difference, of course, is whether the question whether Muhammad is a prophet or not. So I thought, okay, maybe Islam, the teachings of Islam are okay. But Muhammad is still, as I learned, an antichrist, or he is a crook, or all the bad things you can imagine. That was still the view that I held when it came to Prophet Muhammad. What I did was comparing him not to Jesus, because a lot of people always say you have to compare him with Jesus. But I found that illogical, because Jesus had another mission. Even when I was still not a Muslim, I thought, well, it's more fair to compare him to Moses, because I thought, well, in the Christian Church I was brought up, they called Moses the lawgiver, and I thought, well, Prophet Muhammad brought a law as well, the Sharia. So I thought, well, we have two guys who say they bring a law, so it's more fair that I compare those two with each other. And I thought, well, one of my objections was Muhammad used violence. A point for me that I had to look into my heart to see, I still believe in God. Well, if you believe in God, why do you believe God? There is a revelation. If I believe in a revelation, that the revelation is brought by someone or someone's. That's not an English word, but by people. And those people we call prophets. So I thought, okay, then Muhammad is a prophet. And then I realized, well, if I say Muhammad is a prophet and I believe in God, then there is a problem, because then I would be a Muslim, and that's not still something I didn't want to be. And so I talked to a lot of people, and they say, yeah, well, if that's the case, you are a Muslim, whether you like it or not, or you must stop believing in God or something. But I couldn't, and then I thought, okay, I just park it and I don't do anything with it, and I'll leave it for what it is. But yeah, if you are a believing person, whether you're not a Christian or a Buddhist or a Muslim, you want to do something with the things you believe in, especially when it's the core or the cornerstone of your life. And it was still so. I believed in God, and I thought, yeah, I want to abide the laws of God. I want to do something that is good. So I had to do something with my newfound information. So we start talking. I told him where I was, that I believed that Muhammad probably was a prophet, and I still believe in God. He said, well, you are a Muslim, but you don't know it yet. So I start reading, and it took a couple of months, and after those months, we were eating at home by the publisher, and there was an imam with us and some other guys, also non-Muslims, and the imam suddenly asked me, "Do you believe in God? Yes or no?" I said, "Yes." "Do you believe Muhammad was a prophet? Yes or no?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Well, we take the shahada now, or is it something you do not want to do?" And then I said, "Yeah, I think deep in my heart I want to do it, but I cannot do it because of course, because of your family, and yeah, because I was a right-wing nationalist. I cannot become a Muslim. That's ridiculous." But I did, and it made me very happy, and I still am very happy today. Unfortunately, a lot of people in my family, of course, are a little less happy when I did it. And some Muslims ask me, "Well, aren't you mad at your family, or why aren't you disappointed?" But I'm not, because especially my mother, she was very sad, and she said, "It's not because I'm sad because you became a Muslim." She said, I would also be sad when you became a Buddhist, because she thinks Christianity is the truth, so she was worried for my soul. So I couldn't be, in the first place, it's hard to be mad at your mother, but especially when somebody is mad or sad out of love. So that's something that I always try to remember. But there are a lot of, of course, the old supporters of the political party I was active in, who are not so happy. The usual death threats and stuff like that. But that's not something that holds you back, because it made me very happy. And the doubts I had, is that what I told about Christianity, the doubts I had when it comes to the Trinity of God and the crucifixion, the fact in Christianity people believe that God had to sacrifice Jesus Christ so he could forgive the world. But at the same time, in the Bible, it says that God is almighty and does what he wants to do. And I always thought as a child, well, if you are almighty as God, why can't you just forgive? Why is there a son who had to die before you can say, okay, I forgive? So I thought it was illogical. I still think Christianity is a nice religion. Only I didn't believe the truth with a capital T. It wasn't there for me anymore. And strangely enough, when I was writing the book, I got Islamic answers to Christian questions. The most important things when it comes to Islam is education, and making people see that Islam is not what you see at the news or the things you always hear. And I think in America, I don't know America, of course, because I don't live here, but I think in America there is a certain bias that we all also have in Europe. That's something else. I see big chances for Islam, because I think Islam is the last real religion. And a lot of people, especially when I talk with Protestant Christians, who are very angry all the time when it comes to Islam, but when you talk to them for real and in a calm way, they realize very fast that, for example, the things my problems, theological problems with Christianity, for example, the Trinity, they feel this. They feel what I mean. So that's what I always tell them. I say, you know that it's illogical. People who call themselves Muslims who do very bad things, but that's not a reflection of the religion. And when it comes to terrorism, I think it's a real problem. I think that people should be punished who act like terrorists. And at the same time, I think it's not a reflection of Islam. There are psycho people in the world, and there are Christian psychos, there are Buddhist psychos in Myanmar, there are people in China who are treating Uyghur Muslims as beasts. Those people are psycho. So there are a lot of psycho people in the world, but it's not a reflection of the religion, not of Islam and not of Christianity, and I don't think it's a reflection of Buddhism as well, how they treat in Myanmar Muslims.
Okay.